So maybe you ended it with a narcissistic woman and suddenly your phone is blowing up. 20 messages in a row. Boom, boom, boom. One minute it's I love you more than anything. The next minute it's you're the worst person in the whole world. You're the narcissist. You're an abuser. And then she starts spreading stories, threatening to ruin you, dragging your name through the mud to anyone who will listen. So you do the only thing you can think of, the only thing that makes sense, and you stop responding. You go no contact, but it just makes things worse. I'm Lise Leblanc, therapist, author, and life coach, and I work with men who have been lied to, manipulated, and psychologically abused by a narcissistic woman. And in this video, I'm going to give you 7 reasons that covert narcissists hate being ignored. And stick with me till the end because I'm going to explain one predictable pattern that happens right after you go no contact. So if you're in this situation right now, please take a moment to subscribe because this channel is for men who are trying to get out of this exact type of relationship. Okay, so the first reason that a narcissistic woman hates being ignored is because your attention is her fuel. For a narcissistic woman, self-worth is not internally regulated. It is outsourced, and it runs almost solely on external validation. So here's what happens when you stop responding to her. There's a drop in her self-worth, and it's not a normal drop. It is a sharp and unbearable drop. And inside that drop, her brain starts screaming, am I lovable? Am I enough? Am I worthy? And that's when you'll see the sudden switch. Sweet to vicious, sad to furious, sexual to raging. And it's like she's trying all these different versions of her until she triggers a response from you. Some kind of validation that gives her relief from that shame and that self-worth crash that has been triggered by your removal of validation. The second reason a narcissist hates being ignored is because it makes her feel absolutely powerless. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty makes her feel out of control, anxious. So when you're texting, arguing, and explaining, even when you're fighting back, at least she knows where you're at emotionally. She can feel the temperature, she can monitor you, she can provoke you, and this gives her a sense of power over you. But when you go silent, there's no data, and that registers as danger. So she keeps poking, testing, provoking until she gets that reaction. And any reaction will do because at least now they've got some information. And information equals power and potentially leverage. The third reason is that being ignored humiliates her. And being humiliated is the worst thing in the world. It triggers narcissistic injury. So when you're arguing with her, at least you're still engaged. When you're defending yourself, she knows you're still in the game. When you explain, you're still participating. But when you ignore her, you remove her significance. You're communicating without saying a word that you don't matter to me. You don't get access to me. And that lands hard for someone with strong narcissistic traits because it feels degrading, disrespectful, and that humiliation often flips into retaliation. And that's when you see the smear campaign, the character attack, the moral outrage, the sudden rewriting of history. Because if she can knock you down, she's no longer the one who feels small and insignificant. The fourth reason is she doesn't want an equal partnership. She doesn't even want an equal conversation. She wants a courtroom, a hierarchy where she's the judge and you're the defendant. With covert narcissism, it's not always loud dominance, it's moral positioning. She's the wounded one and you're the offender, and you're always on trial, explaining, defending, clarifying, trying to set the record straight. Because the moment you're in that position of defending yourself, you're playing by her rules. So when you go silent, the courtroom shuts down. There's no more defense or debate, and that's a problem for her. Because covert narcissists depend on the I'm the victim and you're the offender narrative. And when you stop engaging, you deny her the final verdict. So she takes the courtroom outside and starts building a case against you with the public. The fifth reason is that your silence traps her in her own emotional discomfort. And this is the part that a lot of people don't understand about covert narcissism. It's not just that she wants attention, it's that she can't tolerate what comes up inside of her when there's no drama, no chaos, and nowhere to project all those negative emotions. So if you're engaging her, the tension has somewhere to go. She can externalize it. She can discharge it onto you through the conflict, the accusations, the urgency, the emotional pressure. But when you go silent, there's no target, no outlet, no release. So that discomfort builds inside of her. And that's why she escalates. The sixth reason is the loss of stimulation and intensity. In narcissistic dynamics, it's all built around the emotional charge, conflict, reassurance loops, emotional highs and lows, push pull tension, and that intensity can feel like aliveness. Drama isn't just chaos, it's stimulation. It's a dopamine spike, an adrenaline rush. So when you stop participating, everything goes flat. There's no spark, no back and forth, just quiet. And for someone who thrives on relational intensity and stimulation, that quiet can feel dead, empty, dangerous even. So she creates chaos, a crisis, a jab, an emotional swing just to bring that voltage back up. The seventh reason she hates being ignored is that it collapses the fantasy. And there is always a fantasy operating in narcissistic dynamics. The fantasy that she is the center of the universe, that you're obsessed with her, that you'll always come back, that she's unforgettable. And as long as you're reacting, even if it's negatively, her fantasy stays intact. So when you go quiet and you stay quiet and you don't beg and you don't defend and you don't try to clear the air, set the record straight, the fantasy starts to crack. And that feels very threatening to her because a covert narcissist depends on that fantasy, the belief that she occupies a central place in your world. And when you move on calmly, without drama, without chasing, your silence communicates something powerful. I don't need you. And that hits her at her core because it contradicts the internal fantasy that she's everything to you. And again, it feels intolerable, not just because of the loss of attention, but because that fantasy dies. So when you fully withdraw, it drops her into an emotional state that she can't tolerate. Rejection, emptiness, powerlessness, worthlessness. And with a vulnerable narcissist, they don't just, sit back and say, wow, I should, reflect on this and take time to process it. No, she reaches for relief. She flips into drama, victim mode, guilt trips, sudden crises, and she'll latch on to someone else fast, urgently, not because she's ready, but because she's trying to escape those intolerable feelings. And now, the predictable part that I promised is that when something has worked on you to get a reaction for so long, and now it suddenly stops working, she's not going to give up easily. In fact, she's going to try even harder. And that spike in her effort is called an extinction burst. And this is where she pushes harder to get those reactions from you. And if you respond during that spike, even once, you're teaching her to escalate, and that more escalation equals an eventual response. So expect that spike, don't personalize it, and definitely don't reward it. As long as you're talking, explaining, defending, reacting, she does have power over you. Your reaction is proof that she can still dig into your nervous system and pull those strings. But when you go quiet, she can no longer reel you in. That's when you start taking your power back. And if you want help breaking the trauma bond and getting out of this type of relationship, check out my toxic relationship recovery program that I linked below. And if this video is helpful, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. And to learn more about the female covert narcissist tactics, click on the link above.